Every so often you come across a new guitar that on first glance looks like a pretty standard affair, but dive into the details a little bit and you've got something, well, just a little bit idiosyncratic and a bit different. And that's totally the case with this. It's the Slick Guitars SL55. And just looking at it, you might think it's a standard take on a Cabronita-esque style of guitar with Filtertron pickups. But looking at the neck and the specs that we've got, well, it's a bit of a different thing. Now, the brand Slick Guitars is not that well known in Europe. I've seen the odd Slick guitar in dealers here and there, but never really played one up until a few weeks ago when I was lucky enough to be in my day job in the industry, and I was next to the entire range of Slick guitars for 2 days. Needless to say, I tried out all of the models, and this one, the SL55, really caught my attention. So Musik Wein, the German distribution partners for Slick, sent me this guitar to make some videos with, and this is the first of those. Now, the name Slick Guitars comes from the guitarist Earl Slick from the USA. He was a guitarist with David Bowie and John Lennon and many, many more. So he's a player who knows what he's talking about, knows what he likes, and clearly had his own thoughts and plan for these Slick guitars, because they are just that little bit different. So what I'm going to do in this video then is first tell you about the specs and the features of the SL55, then I'll play it for you in as many different musical styles as I can manage today. And after that, I'll give you some more in-depth opinions and give you my own thoughts about this guitar and whether or not I think it's going to be worth your money at the end of the day. So stick around for that. Timestamps to everything will be down there in the description in the comments, so head to the parts of the video that you'd like to see. But we'll kick off things then with those rather interesting specifications and features. So the first thing that you notice with this guitar is this rather wonderful sandblasted ash style body, and it is solid swamp ash. I think I've counted that there's 4 pieces in this body. Black ash is the name of the finish. It's a really, really wonderful and eye-catching color, and you can also feel that it feels very 3D. There's no thick poly finishes on any of the Slick guitars. They're all sanded back. The guys behind Slick say that they put 1 layer of automotive paint over the bodies, then sand it back so the bodies can breathe, the pores are open and stuff like that. And well, it certainly gives you a very rock and roll aesthetic, as does the lack of a pickguard here too. And you'll also notice that we only have a single knob here. There's only a volume control. I guess a tone knob was too complex for Earl Slick and his design team, so they decided to do away with it. And I have to admit that I'm someone who never really uses a tone knob much anyway, so I've got no problem with that whatsoever. But will I miss it during the playing part? Well, we'll find out in a couple of minutes. 3-way selector switch here for the pair of Earl Slick designed Filtertron style pickups, and they're actually the GF-Tron hard vintage set, so they should give us amazing vintage pushed tones, and we should be able to get amazing AC/DC style rhythm tones. I'm a huge Malcolm Young fan, as you know if you've ever watched my channel, and he played Gretsch's his entire career, so I'm really, really excited to try these pickups. Also, something that's a bit different is the bridge here. The bridge is made of a solid billet of brass. It's got no finish on it either, so it's raw as well, and we've got 6 intonatable saddles here as well, so a pretty cool thing and something very different, and it's kind of recessed into the body here as well. Let's just flick round to the back again so you can marvel again in this beautiful swamp ash body. Really, really cool thing. And we've got this nice slick neck plate as well. Very, very cool. And on the back of the neck there, you can see that this is indeed a maple neck. It's a solid Canadian hard rock maple neck, in fact, and it basically feels like it's got no finish on it whatsoever. So it's really, really smooth, really, really slick. I see what they did there, and it feels incredibly comfortable. To me, it feels like a medium to slightly chunky up at the top C-shaped neck. It's going to be perfect for pretty much every hand. If you don't have tiny hands or massive hands, I think you'll be totally fine with this neck profile. Now, at the front of the neck here, we have a Jatoba fingerboard with 22 medium jumbo frets and a 42mm graphite nut. Now, the interesting thing about the neck is that although the body is kind of Fender, we've got Gibson measurements to this. So we've got a 24 3/4 inch or 628mm scale length, and we've also got a 12-inch fingerboard radius here. So if you're used to your Les Paul type guitars, well, this one might feel a bit like a Les Paul neck, but without a poly finish on the back of it. So a really interesting proposition. Tele meets Gibson all in one guitar, but with Filtertron pickups too. And moving up to the headstock there, it's a pretty cool headstock. I don't mind the shape whatsoever. I like the Slick logo, and we've got interesting tuners here. Again, brass tuners with bronze inner workings. So a unique thing, and they feel pretty good on first twist. So this is the Slick Guitars SL55, and what we're going to do next is play it. My rig for today is going to be my Hughes & Kettner Black Spirit 200 amp head. We'll use 2 or 3 of the amp's different channels and a smidgen of reverb at all times just to fatten up the tones, and we'll also use my Rev G3 distortion pedal when we're tuning down the SL55 at the end and seeing if it can do a bit of metal, because why not? Guitars like this should be able to play any kind of music, and Filtertron pickups, well, they're their own thing, so let's hear how they sound doing a bit of good old metal. Enough talk then, this is the Slick Guitars SL55, let's play it now and we'll speak in a bit more detail about it afterwards. Okay then, so that was the Slick Guitars SL55, and I hope you enjoyed the playing and the tones. Leave me a comment down there telling me what you think of these Filtertron style pickups. Did they float your boat? Did they sound good to you? I really want to hear what you guys think. And also let me know whether you're a fan of this sort of style of sandblasted swamp-ash guitar finishes. I think it's super cool, but let me know what you guys think. But anyway, what I'm going to do now is go on and give you a few more in-depth opinions and my thoughts about this guitar. I've had it on loan for a few weeks now to make some videos with, and I've played it a lot in that time, and it is a very playable guitar. But anyway, let's start with the first impressions when I first received it. So the first thing I noticed when getting this guitar out of the box was these beautiful looks, and it is a very, very, I guess, divisive looking guitar. I happen to like it very much. I think it looks super cool, but there are other options available as well. If you want something more like a seafoam green relict sort of a finish, you can get those too. So it looks great, and you don't notice, of course, the fact that you've got sort of Fendery specs on the body and Gibson-y specs on the neck. You don't realize that at all until you pick it up and play it. And in the case of someone like me, you probably don't really notice it too much when you're playing the guitar either. But those are specs that are going to be important to some people. And I guess the other thing that I noticed was that this is a very simple and also slightly different affair. No pickguard, just a volume knob, no tone control, and we've got these brass hardware bits that just lend a unique vibe to the SL55. It's a really interesting looking instrument, and if you like these looks, well, I think you're probably going to like the entire Slick range of guitars, because they all follow that simple rock and roll workhorse guitar philosophy. The next thing that you're going to notice is the price. Now, this guitar in America is incredibly cheap. It's $270 at the time that I'm filming this. Now, this specific model with the sandblasted ash finish in Europe is about 430 euros, and you can get the plain relict finishes for about 370. So still very sort of affordable, very much in the ballpark of the Squier Classic Vibe type guitars over here in Europe, but much more affordable in America for whatever reason. Now, this guitar was made in China, so you can expect the price to be fairly low, but considering we've got these pretty cool and unique brass hardware appointments and so on, well, it seems like pretty decent value for money in that regard. And this being made in China, the next thing that I looked at was, of course, the build quality. And at this kind of price point, you're looking to find what's wrong with the guitar. And I have to say that so far I haven't managed to find anything. It seems to be great in terms of quality and setup too. Now, starting with the neck, it's beautiful and smooth, really nice smoothly crowned frets. Action and intonation were spot on straight out of the box as well. And these unique brass tuners really do seem to hold tune very well indeed too. Coming to the body, and you can expect it to be a slightly rough and ready affair because we've got that sanded back finish and we've got that open pore swamp ash as well, but it feels fantastic, nice and smooth. The edges of the body, no rough ends or anything like that, no problems with the routing or anything whatsoever. Everything seems to have been done really, really well. So in terms of build quality, I can't complain at all. In terms of the electronics as well, no crackly or scratchy pots or anything like that, no problem with the jack lead going in and out, so full marks in that regard. Just one other thing to mention in terms of the build quality. Now, normally more affordable guitars are very, very heavy, and with a body like this, you might expect this guitar to be a bit of a weighty beast too. And it's heavy, reassuringly heavy, but not too heavy. This specific one weighs 3.62 kilograms. That's just a tiny little bit under 8 pounds, so really not too bad. I personally do like a lighter guitar if I can get one, but this one does not feel too heavy in any way. And it balances really well too, whether I'm playing sat down or whether I'm standing up and using a guitar strap. So really, really good in that regard as well. After checking out the build quality, then I started to play the guitar straight away, and that's when I realized that this guitar actually plays really, really well. Now, I am a Telecaster fan, so I like a slab of telly wood strapped to my body. I don't need tummy cuts or anything like that. I find that incredibly comfortable. That might be an issue for you. If so, you can look elsewhere and no problem. There are other Slick guitars that have tummy cuts and stuff like that, but this one doesn't, and it just feels right to me. The body feels like a decent telly should. Now, the neck has these Gibson measurements, and I have to say, I really don't notice that I'm not playing a Fender scale length. That's just something that's never been applicable to me. I don't see that as a good thing or a bad thing. It's just a thing with me. If you're someone who's always wanted a telly, but you can only really get on with the Gibson scale length, this must be a guitar that you need to try. If it's a problem for you, well, test it out first before buying, and you never know. Now, in terms of the playability of the neck itself, well, it couldn't be easier. Like I said before, we've basically got no finish, no lacquer on the back of this one, so it's super smooth, super easy to get up and down, super slick, ha ha ha, see what they did there again, and I really find this Jatoba fingerboard to be no issue whatsoever. I'd prefer rosewood, but at this price point, you're probably not going to get it. 22 medium jumbo frets, I'm totally at home with that kind of thing as well, and like I said, they're all super smooth, have been done, crowned super well, action and intonation great straight out of the box. This was a very easy to play experience straight away. So in terms of the playability as well, full marks here too. It's just a simple all-out rock and roll machine, and with no tone knob you can just get on with rocking out and playing the thing. And when you're playing the thing, the next thing that you're going to notice is going to be the sounds. And we've got these GF-Tron Filtertron style hard vintage pickups in this guitar, so it's going to give us those Filtertron rock and roll style tones. Or is it? Well, I have to say that for me personally, I don't have that much experience with Filtertron style pickups. I've played a few Gretches in my time, but I've never really owned a guitar with Filtertron pickups, and I've never owned a Cabronita Telly either. So this was kind of a new experience for me, and I really like the sound of these pickups. They're definitely a vintage sounding pickup. They definitely have a nice bite and a nice twang to them for clean stuff, but they get thick and aggressive and brash with a nice bit of gain too. So they're pretty versatile, decent all-rounders, and they did the job for me. Now, like I said earlier in the video, I'm a huge AC/DC and Malcolm Young fan, and I did think that on the crunch channel of my amp, I could get beautiful, fat AC/DC type rock tones with this guitar. A lot of people, I think, when they try and replicate the AC/DC and Malcolm Young tone, they put too much gain into their signal. Turn down the gain, play it almost clean, and you really get huge, fat sounding riffs, and that's what I was getting spraying off my fingers with this guitar. Really loads of fun in that regard. For the cleaner tones too, I really enjoyed playing this. It was perfect for everything from country to folk and pop and a bit of indie as well. When we upped the gain and did harder rock and punk rock too on the lead channel of my amp, well, I thought this guitar sounds fantastic for that as well. There is a lot of clarity in these GF-Tron pickups, so it really works well for palm muting and chugging and stuff like that. You hear all 6 strings in big, loud, distorted chords, so it works really well for that too. Now, when we tuned down to drop D and turned on the Rev G3 pedal, I thought we were slightly moving away from what these pickups are designed for, but they can do that metal thing as well. What I probably should have done is got something like a tube screamer to run in front of the Rev to actually give us even more gain and even more thickness for more modern metal tones, but for classic metal, you can't really go wrong with these. For more modern progressive metal tones with loads of saturation, you're probably going to want to go for a guitar with active humbuckers or something like that, but still you can manage it with these pickups. So in the sound stakes, very impressed again. And so overall then, so far, I've been really enjoying this guitar. But if you've been enjoying it too, and you're kind of wondering, well, what else could be out there in this kind of a style? Well, there are not that many options really. Now, there is one direct competitor that I have noticed online, and it's a significantly cheaper one. It's the Harley Benton TE90. They make a number of sandblasted Cabronita style tellies that do look quite similar to this, mostly with maple necks, but they do have some with dark fingerboards as well. Those are going to be about 180 euros in Europe, and those are going to have the typical Harley Benton quality, so it could be worth a try if you're on a lower budget. Now, with the price point of this guitar, you're kind of, in Europe anyway, at Squier classic vibe sort of prices, and while at the moment Squier don't make any Cabronita style tellies with Filtertron style pickups, they have made them in the past, so check out the used sites and see what you can find. Now, Harley Benton themselves have also made a more standard Cabronita style telly with Filtertron style Roswell pickups that looks more like the not sandblasted versions of the SL55, and again, that's going to be about 180 euros, so very decent value for money there as well. If you're absolutely looking for sandblasted though, in the past Fender have made a few of these in limited runs, and again, you're going to have to look on used sites to try and track down one of those. But if you're looking for an affordable Filtertron sort of experience or a way into this style of pickups, you can't go wrong with the Gretsch Electromatic range. There are a bunch of different options there, different body shapes and sizes and so on, including one really cool looking option for sub $500, sub 500 euros, which really looks like Malcolm Young's old Gretsch. So that could probably be worth a look at if, like me, you're into AC/DC sorts of tones. At the end of the day then, the Slick SL55 is a really, really decent, no-nonsense rock and roll machine of a guitar. I didn't find myself missing a tone control at any point, or a scratch plate, come to think of it. This guitar just lets you get on with rocking out and having fun. It's supremely easy to play, it's got a really comfy neck. I really like this sandblasted ash sort of a finish too. It just works for me. For the price in America of $270 odd, it's an absolute no-brainer, in my opinion, to try one of these if you ever get the chance. In Europe, there's a bit more competition for around $370 to $430, that kind of a price point. But still, when I think about the classic vibes that I've tried recently, this competes really, really well. So if you ever get the chance to try one of these, do it. Let me know what you think of it, and maybe you'll be adding a Slick to your guitar collection at the end of the day too. And don't forget, you're getting something slightly different with this guitar. They've got their own design tuners here, this pretty cool bridge, and the brass knobs and hardware here as well. And these GF-Tron pickups are really, really decent things as well. So overall, nothing bad to say about this guitar really. I really, really like it, and I hope to be trying more of the Slick guitars range in future. If you have any Slick guitars that you'd like me to test out specifically first, let me know in the comments, and I shall ask the folks at Musik Wein if they've got any more that they can lend me. But I hope that this video's answered all of the questions that you might have had about the SL55. Let me know if there's anything else that you need to know, and I shall do my best to answer you down there in the comments. And if you're still around, would make my day if you wanted to give this video a like, or maybe even subscribe to my little channel, because that really does help. But that's been it for today's video. I've been Rich, and this has been the Slick SL55, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.